We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkies. Welcome back to Deal Junkies. We are trying to add some structure to our podcast.
No, ADHD all the way.
Trevor wants to make a list of things we're going to talk about. We've had some feedback recently. If anybody out there is a podcast trainer, we're looking for some free coaching and education on how to run a real podcast. We want to know. No, actually, we do want to know if you guys want us to do something different.
If you guys are listeners, message us on Instagram. Tell us what you like to hear or don't like to hear or want to hear more of, and we will maybe take your advice, maybe not.
Do people actually message each other on Instagram? That's a thing?
People under the age of you.
Okay. I thought Instagram was just for pictures. You just take selfies all day. That's why I didn't get on there. I took one selfie and I was like, nope, this doesn't work for me. I'm too old for this one.
I only go to Instagram to see if there's messages.
Yeah,
you're single. You're chasing girls on Instagram.
No, I don't like Instagram.
You don't?
No.
You like Tinder better?
Definitely not Tinder. Whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a good place to find a stable relationship.
That's what I want in my stable relationship.
I don't know all these things. I met my wife before we had the internet. Well, no, we had the internet, but we weren't on social media. We met on a blind date, which is kind of what the internet is. It's kind of a blind date.
Yeah,
because you get a really highly edited photo of somebody, and then you go on a date and you're like,
whoa,
why do you look a little different? You're not as smooth as I thought you were.
All right.
Dane, you have more wrinkles than I thought.
Let's get back on topic.
All right. So I did
this is our structure.
I just did all that to piss Trevor off. I'm Gabe Johansson. I'm here with Trevor Howard, Mike Nuss, and Dane McKinney. Today, we want to bring you an episode about shiny object syndrome. I don't know if that's a real syndrome or not, but we are all entrepreneurial. I'm sure a lot of people listening are entrepreneurial. And one of the hang-ups...
Wait, we got to tease what else is next.
What? You're going to tease us? Oh, here's the structure.
We're putting
Trevor's
going to
give us
so you have to follow it.
I'm on a roll here.
You're
just trying to add more structure to my life.
This is ridiculous.
Okay,
We're going to talk about
tease us.
We're going to talk about politics, how it affects the real estate market.
Okay.
Or how we think it does. And then we're going to talk about some deals. We got some of Mike's deals.
I just love the example of shiny object syndrome we just spewed into people's ears for 3 minutes.
Can you imagine? Yeah, here we are. We're going to talk about shiny object syndrome. But hold on for a minute. We are going to talk about deals.
But wait.
And politics.
No, go back there.
Okay.
What's on the list?
So
giving an outline.
For everybody listening, if you didn't know what shiny object syndrome is, we just showed you.
That was an outline.
Trevor just gave you a real life example of shiny object syndrome.
Gabe turned Trevor's very clear outline into a mess.
Okay, so so we're entrepreneurial. One of the pitfalls, I think, of being entrepreneurial is, there's so many different ways to succeed and make money and build business, and there's so many different things we can do. We tend to kind of want to do all of them.
You see opportunities because you have an opportunity. Entrepreneurs see opportunities.
Opportunistic mindset.
Yeah. And then they have the desire to go after them.
And so how many times a day do you go like, wow, I'm doing really well, but then somebody else tells you they're making money doing something else, and you're like, oh, I should do that too.
I'm capable of that.
I can do that.
Anyway,
of course.
Do you know why that is?
If he could do it, I could do it.
I already have the answer for you.
Oh, here we go.
So
tell us.
It's because when you become an entrepreneur at first, you're rewarded so heavily for jumping in and committing to something. But once you start it, you have to stop that habit. So on the front end, it's what gets you going, right? You're a W-2. You're rewarded for quitting, having the shiny object syndrome, starting something else, trying a few things. But then you keep doing that, and you don't have success with the thing you started.
Okay, so I have a couple comments.
When you say rewarded, you mean like chemically in your brain?
And financially.
And socially.
And socially.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that entrepreneurs are born. They don't become entrepreneurial. I think if you're an entrepreneur, from the first time you take a job, you're miserable. And you're like, I have to be an entrepreneur. It's almost like I think you could become an entrepreneur, but I really think that ultimately deep down in your DNA, if you truly are entrepreneurial, you're not ever going to want to go work for somebody else. That's part of it.
I agree with that. You've talked about that too.
The other thing I want to say is an entrepreneur isn't necessarily the person who knows how to run and grow a business. An entrepreneur is an idea person. There's a visionary. It's somebody who has ideas. And so we're not necessarily the people that take a business and take it to the next level, or even, one it's just like when we're buying a deal. We buy a deal, we're so excited to find a deal, we have the idea of how the deal could make us so much money. The second we close on that deal, we want to pass it off to somebody else to go run the deal. We don't want to do the actual work and run the business. We're not really business. I mean, we can be business operators, and we can become business operators, especially if we structure our companies to have people underneath us that are operational, right? But to me, an entrepreneur is somebody who comes up. And we can look up the definition. I don't know if we have a definition of what entrepreneurial is.
Someone that mobilizes capital.
I'm gonna
It's something like
look
that.
up that.
But I think there's
Really?
two different. Yeah, there's mobilization of capital and labor and whatnot in the definition. But I think there's two types of entrepreneurs. There's visionaries and then there's tacticians. And I think there's a place for both. And the tacticians typically get less distracted and less. What do we?
Well,
call it? What's it? What's the definition?
shiny object.
Yeah, because that's the visionary gets that. Right, because the visionary doesn't have the ability to hone down into the details. That's just a personality trait, which puts him in that. But you can be entrepreneurial in both areas. You can be an entrepreneurial tactician that just, they see the details, they love the details, they want to take the risk, they want to mobilize capital. Does that make sense? Like I think there's just a personality type that fits.
Okay, here we go. An entrepreneur is a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. It's also, a second definition is a promoter.
An entrepreneur is someone who will quit their job that pays them money to go and lose money with no guaranteed outcome.
Yeah, that was a really bad definition.
Here's what that Google says that this is the best definition. An entrepreneur is an individual who identifies a need in the marketplace and works to fulfill it. So we look for problems all day long. We look for problems that could be solved, that we could benefit from solving.
Yeah, and not even just in the marketplace, but like in your organization, in your life, in your community, in your friendship.
So I guess anybody could have shiny object syndrome. You don't have to necessarily be entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
I just think that it is one pitfall to being entrepreneurial is having shiny. I think most of
Why is it a pitfall?
Well, okay.
I mean, it could be good too.
As an early entrepreneur, you may have to try a lot of different things, and in the beginning, it may be very valuable. But to me, as you go along, I think that you may start off in 10 lanes, but eventually you're going to have to narrow your focus in order. I don't know. Maybe for me anyway, that's how it works.
So I think it's because it's arrogant of you to think that you can do all these things really well, when the most successful people are typically scaling one thing first and taking those skills, and once they've scaled it, applying to the next thing. And not everyone's path is the same, but perfect example, me and Dane, we're not that experienced in business like you and Mike, right? But we've been doing it a little while. And then Dane thought it was a great idea to start a plumbing company.
Whoa. Hey,
As we have these other companies.
give some background.
No. And then
Plumbing.
so
we're out doing real estate deals.
I'm the bed bug.
we're growing we're growing an investment company and a service-based real estate company. And then we're like, plumbing sounds great. We're not in plumbing at all. But we had the opportunity to. The team was there, everything was there, and we're like, might as well start it, right? But now it's hard to do because you're task switching between these two other companies to now this plumbing company, and you're trying to do them all at once. And it's hard to do them all at once and do them well.
I think that my problem was that I viewed it as an opportunity to help our current business, and without accounting for how much time it would take to actually make it successful. And so what we did is create a plumbing company, and now we have a team that can help plumb our jobs, which is awesome. Now we have a funnel for business just for ourselves, but it's only coming from us right now. And so the issue is that to get it into the next echelon of, no, we're getting business from everywhere, then it takes all my time. It has to take all my time to get past just what the jobs that we can get from Skyline, Stack, SMI, and any of our inner circle of companies. which isn't enough to really, really grow a plumbing company. And so I thought that it would grow both, but instead it just took time away from what should have been my main focus and still does. And now I'm not giving either of them enough time.
So now you're talking about the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
So you start going down the
I didn't
wrong.
calculate it.
You
That's
find
the
something,
downfall.
You might find something. The biggest problem you have is you do something that actually works, like your new plumbing company, which is actually making money.
It all works.
Yeah.
But is it your highest and best use of time to run that plumbing company?
And that's kind of the question is like, what is my end goal? And the end goal is to own as much real estate as I can. And I thought that this would aid me in that.
Why? Because of bringing in more cash?
Yeah.
Or because you need a plumber for your project?
That's the question I didn't answer on the front end. Was because in my mind it was like, okay, I'll bring in more cash for myself and we get cheaper plumbing on our own projects. So it's a good thing. And realistically, 5 years from now, it's going to be a good thing. Like it would have been good to do 5 years from now, but the timing was just, hey, this guy who's a really, really good plumber, the other owner of the company is a fantastic plumber, like hard to find somebody better, who's actually willing to do all the work and bid the jobs and, take calls. So he's doing everything, but I should have recognized that the opportunity cost wouldn't be worth it. And I just didn't at the time.
It's because you think the grass is always greener on the other side. Then you dive into that industry, and then you start learning about it, and then you learn you don't know what you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're in the same boat as you were with the first company.
Yeah, and it's the ego to say that there's a dude whose full-time job is to run a plumbing company, and he's spending 12 hours a day on it. And for me to say, well, if we have like 3 guys that are spending a couple hours a day or a week on it, we can do just as good. Right, because we've already done it with another business. And it's like, no, the only reason we did just as good in the first business was because we spent 12 hours a day on it or 10 hours a day on it, whatever it may be, because our whole focus was on that business. So it's the ego to say I can do it again, as though I could just throw the first company aside and it would still grow, And it's like, no, if anything, it's just going to shrink. And then, this one has the opportunity to grow. But really, you can only grow one business at a time, like really grow one business.
And they all
at a
work.
time. And they all work.
Well, so I've fallen into this trap. I think I'm probably a perfect example of shiny object syndrome. When I decided that I wanted to go out on my own in real estate in February of 2012, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad said, well, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. And so I thought I had to go start 10 businesses. That's what he says. If you start 10 businesses, you're guaranteed to have one that works.
I mean, your probability rate's high that way, huh?
So I started 3 companies in February of 2012. We started Live Wellness, my wife's business, which she still runs that today. We started Live Bar, which was a food manufacturing company. We went 50 state and in 4 countries at one point. And I started my real estate career. So when you say that it can't all work, my mind went to it probably won't work, but then all 3 of them worked, and I didn't know what to do because now I had to pick a lane.
Did you have operators for the other businesses?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the key.
But
and that's
did they,
Partners that were owners.
that
ran
were
the
spending
day-to-day.
their time on the business.
Yep.
And
did they
that's the
work
key
though?
to it.
Did they work? Because you're only in one of them now, right?
No, we still have Live Wellness, and I'm still in real estate.
Are you part of Live Wellness too?
Well, along the way, we put that in Jan's name.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's my wife, but
So you failed.
still-
Jan
Live
kicked you
Wellness.
out?
we decided it was
fired?
better for us to not be in each other's businesses, and I was sick and tired of paying accountants for extra, tax returns and all the other stuff. So
No, I just want to see how Jan fires you. Can we get a replay of that?
she did kind of fire me. I think we were on a hike. Maybe we were in Maui, and I was asking her about what her margins were, or I was asking her some question she didn't want me to ask her.
Oh.
Kind of like Trevor would do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, it's my business, and it doesn't really matter what the margins are. I do this. We were in the beginning, we lived on it. It was our income. It's what helped me get my real estate career going. But after a while, it wasn't something that we fully relied on. And so she could just sort of have fun as long as it, it was profitable and everything else. It didn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But my mindset was, it's got to be the biggest and the best, and it's got to do all these things, and
that's just what she loves doing.
she does it.
She's just really
good at it.
Yeah, she
right?
just loves helping people
And,
be healthier.
Yeah. Now I get to eat donuts again.
Do you really?
No, every once in a while.
No.
You'll see my car at Broadway Commons.
Yeah, if Jan's not around.
Yeah,
that's
only
when he
if
does
Jan
it.
You can
does.
eat donuts. They just taste like shit because they're not actually donuts.
Jan does not listen to Deal Junkies, so I can talk about eating donuts.
Okay, good.
So anyway, I mean, what I'm getting at is over time, I had all these businesses. We were going all these different directions. And what I found was exactly what Trevor said, was that I was going in multiple directions. So here I'm out showing a building I'm trying to sell, and I got to wrap it up real quick to go home and change and train somebody. And then I got to run over here to a meeting because they're making bars or whatever. And I'm like bouncing around, and the rhythm of it didn't really work. Like there had to be other people doing other things, which is fine. But like they didn't, and the businesses didn't necessarily, there was not a lot of synergy. It wasn't like my real estate business was necessarily helping, although I needed to make money so that we could get these things going and all that. But, in the end, for me, what I wanted to do, obviously my lane is real estate, which is why I'm on a real estate podcast right now with you guys. But I wanted I'm okay. I own multiple businesses. I've started multiple businesses. I've sold businesses. I've shut businesses down. So I've done the whole thing. But for me, I wanted to have real estate related companies. I wanted them to go, I have multiple things happening, but they're in the same lane.
So you got focused.
And it's like one business supports another business. Like they can all work together and become, it looks on the surface more like it's one thing instead of, I might be in 5 lanes, but it appears to be sort of all the same.
They're
thing.
supplemental.
Well,
And that.
That's so weird.
Why are you trying to cut me off?
I wasn't. We both started at the same time, in fairness.
Okay.
Let Mike talk.
You guys want to play?
So we know
Rochambeau?
we understand what it is, but let's talk about how do you avoid it? When is it good? When is it positive? How do you structure around it? In an easy segue is that there's vertical building, there's horizontal building. And sometimes you can think you're building vertically because of the supplemental businesses.
Explain what you're talking about. Vertical and
so
horizontal.
like for me, horizontal versus vertical. So vertically, we had the acquisitions and the development company going. We're pulling rentals off of that, right? So, a property management company is a supplemental business you can start then for the rental side. And then, we sell houses, so a brokerage. And then there's the education company, the events company. So one option would have been to sink all of our resources only into the acquisitions and the development company and just build that vertically. Forget about property management, forget about brokerage, forget about education. Don't put the resources into that and put all the resources into the development company to get the development company even better. So that way it's a bigger tugboat tugging those other parts of it around. So you're shaking your head. You
Dane wants to
disagree.
argue with you.
No, you're right, except about the definition of the
Vertical and horizontal.
Yeah. So vertically is saying, here is my industry,
Yeah.
and I'm going to build each company that feeds to the next company vertically. Horizontally, the reason
in the
think of it-
industry that's vertical, but
Yeah.
from a business owner standpoint, that's now horizontal because there's 4 different companies.
Sure. But the idea of horizontal is that you have a property management company and you're spreading it horizontally around a larger geographic area. So horizontally is the exact same business, but spreading it
There's
wider.
taller and wider. Okay.
Yeah.
I could have grown one company taller.
Yeah.
Instead, I tried to grow multiple
Wider.
companies so I was wider.
Yeah.
And the thought process behind that, a wider stance makes sense as long as you allocate resources in the right way, at the right speed, at the right fashion. Because what we actually found was we put too many resources outside of our best company.
Yeah.
And if we would have just made that taller, then we could have bought a company. We didn't do really good allocation of resources. And so what happened to us is we had amazing growth from 2011 to 14, and then 14 to 16 and 17, and built this portfolio and started the property management company and the brokerage. And then what happened? Our portfolio stagnated. It plateaued, and we got distracted by Investor Lab and the events company. And all of a sudden, we have 12 staff, are spending $1 million a year, and you're making no revenue, and you're not building your portfolio. And so that's a classic example of, we felt like we were building a horizontal structure that made us stronger, but really what we did is we separated and we diluted our resources.
It's an opportunity cost thing. It
It's
goes back to
correct.
that, and that's what.
So
you're
that's
saying
how you
when
evaluate
say-
opportunity cost should be evaluated based on the resources you have and what's the best way to then deploy them
to get to an end goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if I'm saying, here's my end goal is own X amount of real estate or have X amount of income.
Correct.
If my goal was have more income now, start a plumbing company.
Yeah.
Focus all my resources there. But since my goal was own more real estate and then I decided to start a plumbing company, it was like, wait, like maybe this makes me a little bit more money, but I could have still made money buying real estate through fees and acquisition,
And then go on the goal. Great way to contrast that. What's Gabe's goal? Have fun, make friends. Well, what we did, that was great for Gabe's goal. I had a lot of fun, made a lot of great brand awareness. That's how you build and ultimately building your network so there's value to it. And I don't want to poop on that, but it's like, well, what was the reason? And I think now looking back, I think my reason innately was actually closer to Gabe's end goal, which is I do just want to have fun. And you can see that the way I talk and what I do. But that's from a business standpoint and a profitability standpoint, from an economic standpoint, it's resources. You're evaluating your resources.
Sometimes you have more fun, though, when you're making money, right? It's like golf. People tell me, they say, well, Gabe, why don't you play golf? And I say, well, because I hate it. Well, why do you hate it? Well, besides the fact I just hate it and it sucks. Because the reason I hate it isn't because really golf sucks. The reason I hate it is because I suck at golf. And I don't really even suck at golf. It's just I used to be better at it, and I used to play every day, and I've always tried to be competitive, and I've never gotten to the level of golfer that I expect of myself in anything that I do. I never reached where I felt like I was playing golf to my level where I should be.
Did you hire a coach ever?
I had a coach in high school who was pretty good.
Should have hired a coach. You would have got there.
Well, maybe I'll do it now.
I hired a coach, and that's why I like golf, because I'm right there with the precipice of being that guy.
It's also a waste of time, and I have emails to send because I'm doing deals.
By the way, you're the most talked about non-member at Creekside. Your name comes up in every foursome I'm in.
I do that on purpose. I was out there playing pickleball the other day. I love pickleball. But
I heard your voice from the range. I'm like, I was. That's Gabe.
So here's where I'm going with this, though. People go, well, Gabe, you don't have to win. Why don't you just go out and have fun? Well, that's what I like to do. I like to go have fun. But when I go out and I play golf and I suck, it's not fun.
No.
So there's a part of it to keeping score. If I could play better golf, I would have more fun. The same thing happens with business. Like, you may start a business because you think it's really fun and it's something that you like to do. But ultimately, if it's not feeding your family and it's not generating income and it's not growing and it's not taking care of your employees and it's not helping out the community, you don't have anything, right?
That's shiny object syndrome can get born out of that as well, which is you go take on another opportunity because you're just not enjoying what you're doing. And maybe that's not sign. Maybe that's just what needs to happen. But.
Do you guys get bored? Does anybody in the room, do you guys get to the point where you're like, do you think shiny object syndrome comes out of things are sort of on cruise control and we need to stir it up a little bit?
I think a big part of that is when you stop learning with the current thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
That it is for me, at least.
So learning is what's fun.
It's part of it, right? It's like when you have something and you feel like you have the ability to continue to learn about it and continue to grow it because of that, and then the ability to hire more people and learn about that process and get them in the right position, then I'm excited about it. But when you kind of feel stuck in one thing, like what you're saying, and it's like, oh, I could go into this other business. Learning curve is huge, right? I can come in and learn a ton of stuff and then just get to the same spot that I'm at with the current business. But that's not the goal. It's okay.
Because you're not expanding.
Yeah.
Right. So that's an internal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about how buying buildings is so much fun and owning buildings is pretty boring. Business is kind of sort of the same way. And so once a building kind of hits cruise control, you may not pay as much attention. You want to go get another one. Business is the same thing. Your business sort of hits cruise control. If you're not in growth mode, or for me anyway, a lot of years I've been in survival mode, because business is so hard and it goes up and down and you have a few good months and you got bad months or whatever. I'm just so, I don't know that I thrive. Maybe I thrive in survival mode just because that's what I know. But when things are going pretty well, I get a little bit bored, and I'm like, "Oh, I got to go do something else."
Yeah.
now.
And then the nature of real estate markets in themselves, the way it's seasonal. It's not seasonal. it's cycles, it's phases, and it's seasons, right? So everything kind of comes and goes in waves. So
You're talking life seasons. Or you're
well,
talking
yeah, but you
seasons?
see those in the business model in and of itself, like what you're doing. So like 2-3 weeks ago, it just felt like, God, it's hard right now. It's just not going the way I want to go. I know I'm right there. I want to get there, but
Why do I
this
even
stuff
do
needs-
this?
Yeah, exactly. But then all of a sudden, like this past 2 days, absolutely cloud nine. Everything's going the right direction. And so I think knowing when, hey, this is just a season of it's hard. I'm not happy. You got it. And then know that season will come around. And I think that's where entrepreneurs are special, is they can get through those seasons because they have faith that the next one's coming.
So how do you differentiate between somebody who's young, hungry, wants to start some new ideas and do some things from shiny object syndrome? Trevor?
Past track records.
How do you stop? How do you identify whether you're having shiny object syndrome? You talk to me and I tell you, hey, you're having shiny object syndrome.
I don't know how to answer this question.
Yeah, Trevor loves
I-
shiny object syndrome.
Well, you
I-
see,
He's the visionary.
well, I think one thing you do is you ask questions, right? And I
Yeah.
think, well, what is, okay, so do you have the skill set for it? Does this help what you're already doing? Is this a distraction? If it is a distraction, can you calculate and quantify what that distraction is?
I think you learn from experience and you go through the trial and errors of having the problem, seeing your failures, and then adjusting from there, unless you can predict on the front end, but I haven't seen people able to do that.
Ultimately, you have to have a guiding light. You have to have an end goal in mind. My end goal, just like Dane's, is I want to own more real estate. That's my selfish motive. My unselfish motive is I want to help people. I want to help other people own more real estate, right? So everything that I do, if I'm going to get a shiny object in front of me, I'm going to make my decision on how if I'm going to go down that path or not, based on, does it serve the end goal? Am I getting my name on more buildings? Am I helping my brokers and employees and clients get their name on more buildings? It all has to serve that purpose.
So shiny object syndrome is literally just a byproduct of lack of clarity.
And gain in alignment.
I do want to say, though, that I think the point of shiny object syndrome is that you feel as though it is. And so it's not only that it aligns with the end goal, it's that it is the most effective use of your time to get to that end goal. And that's why it's shiny object syndrome, is because the only reason the object's shiny is because it's like, wait, that is going to get me closer to my end goal, right? And you look at it and it's like, oh,
No, I think
if
it's
I,
I
do
define
that-
it the opposite.
Yeah, I think it's grass is greener on the other side,
Yeah.
and you're flipping to something else.
Yeah.
So you talk about
if it's a shiny object syndrome if it isn't good. Ultimately, if it is something good, it's what you should be pursuing.
But so, for example, with your companies that you were building out
Yeah.
that stagnated the other ones,
Yeah.
all of those, if they were built out to the best that they possibly could have been with all the operators in place and everybody below them that needed to be in place, that would have been better than just having one company with
Yep.
the operator in place and the people in place. So the point, like the only reason it's shiny to us is because we think it helps us get there.
But
If somebody came to me and was like, do you want to buy a clothing store with me?
Otherwise,
I'd be like, no, it's not shiny to me. It's still a business. I
so
still
it's
make
close
money.
enough.
It's close enough that you think, but it's not your most effective use
Yes.
of time.
There you go.
That's
It's in the
that's the
ballpark.
caveat.
It's in the
is that
ballpark,
it's-
but you shouldn't bring it
yeah,
in the
it
arena.
still would bring you to your end goal.
Yeah.
If somebody said, hey, do you want to own 10% of a business that is in your industry that you won't have to do anything? I'm going to build out the whole thing. I just want your advice for 1 hour a week, and it's going to help all your other businesses by 20%. Then it's like, yeah, that's the most effective use of my time because it helps build my other companies. It takes not much of my time. Why wouldn't I do that?
Mm-hmm.
But the shiny object is I can do it in an hour, but it takes away by 20% from my other companies and doesn't grow as quickly as it could.
Mike, do you think you avoid shiny object syndrome when you have clarity and alignment and you're like setting your frame and doing all that stuff?
Yeah, because I think part of what comes out of shiny object is we're putting value into it, right? And so when you're in alignment, you don't put in value into things you shouldn't be putting value into.
When you say you're in alignment, what does that mean?
The best way that I can explain this is the shiny objects just bounce off of you, like they aren't there.
Because you have focus on this outcome and this goal and this path.
You quickly can evaluate an opportunity for its effectiveness, for how it is relative to where you're trying to go. So like the care facility was never a shiny object syndrome for me because it's exactly where I wanted to go from building a team, asset class. Like it just brand new opportunity. It's shiny. It could lead to the future thing. But for me, I've always felt in alignment with it because of the people I know and the team I could do and the lack of resources it would drain from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas like the tower, well, that's a pretty shiny object because it's a completely different beast in and of itself.
We just found a shiny object.
Wait,
We did? What did we find?
Gabe bit his tongue a minute ago when I finished talking. What was the?
Oh, I don't know.
What shiny object did we find?
Storage. We went and listened to AJ Osborne. I got total shiny object syndrome. When
No, we
listened to
buy
AJ.
all the real estate.
Yeah,
dude.
we did.
That's-
It is in real estate.
It's an alignment.
It's an opportunity you're exploring.
We don't know how to manage it. We know how to buy it. We know how to borrow.
We have a solution for that. Dane has a partner who's going to take on part of the deal that
Okay.
already owns a bunch.
So we only have to talk to him 1 hour a week. Is that
Yep.
what you're saying? So,
I don't even think
there we
you're
go.
ever gonna have to talk to him. I have to talk to him an hour a week.
All right, I need a hit. Let's talk about deals.
Oh,
Talk about deals?
damn.
Deals.
You got shiny. You know, it is interesting though to talk about asset types being shiny objects because if you're in your lane as deal junkies, we all do something a little bit different. You know, maybe we're out looking to flip houses, maybe we're buying smallplex, maybe we're in, commercial buildings or whatever. But you do have the opportunity to jump into other asset types, and you have to figure out, is that asset type going to fit in my portfolio? Because you could jump into a deal like you're talking about the care facility. Not all real estate investors would want to get into that deal because it would not be in alignment with their business model. So everybody's different. I always say that real estate is as unique as people are.
Yeah.
And so when people say like, first off, if you walk down the street and you say, hey, I'm in real estate, everybody just thinks you sell houses. Like the average person doesn't think that there's any other real estate in the world other than a house. And so then when you start talking to investors and stuff, a lot of people are just in their lane. They do, mobile home park, or they do self-storage, or they do multifamily, or whatever it is that they do, right? And you sort of get honed in. But we have the opportunity to get out of our lane a little bit or to expand our lane as we get into other asset types. So 90+% of my portfolio is multifamily. But through that, I ended up with a few retail buildings as well, and they worked out. And if you would have asked me when I started, did I want to own retail, the answer would be no. But today, when you ask me, I'm not scared of it because I did it and it happened to work out, and my retail performs almost better than the multifamily does. So like, I'm not concerned about that particular asset type. But if you brought me office, like you're talking about the office tower, my heart skips a beat because I'm like, holy crap. In my brain, I immediately go to how do we find tenants for this building? And I don't personally have the infrastructure for it, and I don't understand the business model, so I get scared because I'm like, where in the hell how do you fill up a huge office building, right? So I think for everybody, you hear this a lot too, and people calling you on deals all the time, and it's funny how real estate can't just be simple. Every deal has some sort of weird thing to it, right? Mm-hmm. And so you get people all the time that have like, I got this weird deal or whatever, and you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, I don't know if it could work or not. Paul Curley's best advice to me was to just be boring in your real estate. So we get creative. It's exciting with how much real estate we buy, and it's exciting trying to find money and borrow money and structure deals and do all that stuff. But the buildings themselves and operating the buildings are the most boring, mundane things you could possibly imagine. That's our business model. Now, you get to a point where you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars and you can be like Paul. You can get shiny. Yeah, you can go buy ranches. There's a shiny object, right? And now he's, in his 70s building a whole new business around ranches and horses and this whole thing. It really excites him, but, it's not his business model, right? But he could do that once he built he spent 40 years building a very boring, huge portfolio, and then he gets towards closer to the end of his life, and he's like, let's have some fun.
Yeah,
let's have some fun.
He's done with growth.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, let's talk about your deals. You're buying.
Deals.
Prior.
From like direct mail marketing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's usually where most of the seller financing comes
That
from
you do?
for us is
Okay.
either just previous existing relationships or it's letters because that demographic opens mail.
What does it look like?
The
'cause-
letter.
Yeah, like
It's
quick breakdown.
Birthday card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Is
it
it
looks and feels like a birthday card.
Handwritten?
on the front.
Yep.
Their name and
Yep.
then
Yep.
Actual handwritten,
Yep. On the front.
or you use a computer to handwrite
No, we pay someone to write.
Is it handwritten on the inside too?
No.
Okay, and then it's a printout. Do you make it look professional or do you make it look personal? Like I'm
More
an individual.
personal,
I'm an
more
individual
personal.
trying to buy.
Yeah,
this kind
we've
of thing?
done A/B testing in the past, but it's personal. We don't mention anything about cash, quick close, nothing about divorce or stress or anything like that. It's just, hey, we're in your company or in your community, your neighborhood. We own real estate.
Are you like that? I'm Rare Bird Real Estate. This is my company, or it's just like
It comes from my acquisitions manager, so it's him as a person.
Individual looking
and then
to
at the
acquire.
end, I am a licensed broker because you have to
Yeah.
disclose that. Yeah, so it's from a company, but it's an individual.
from that company? Yeah, right
Yeah.
into them personally.
Yeah. And
Okay.
we're actually going to expand our marketing, so we're going to try some other stuff as well. But
How much does that cost monthly for you to do all that? And how many?
it's like $1 a letter.
$1
That's
letter?
essentially what.
What
it
kind of
is.
volume do you send?
We vary on a lot of stuff, so I couldn't even tell you right now.
Okay.
I don't fucking know.
Do you know a range of what you've done in the past?
Yeah, like from 4,000 a month to 6,000 a month
Oh, wow.
to
Okay.
1,000 a month. Like when we were first starting our brokerage and we were kind of trying to carve out, this is what you should be doing. It was, a minimum of 500 letters a month. At the very minimum, you should be doing that if you're serious about doing it. If you're actually serious, like wholesalers, they're spending $10,000 to $40,000 a month on their marketing. So that's where people don't realize that acquisitions is a broker's thing. Like wholesaling, buying your own real estate, and being a broker is the exact same thing. Getting in contact with property owners. It's just what type of property owners are you targeting, and how are you getting control?
We're gonna pause real quick and then come back.
All right, sorry about that, guys. We had a little technical difficulty. Dane bought a SD card that is too slow, so we're now back up and running here. We're talking about Mike's deal.
There's a new producer job hiring wanted ad.
For Deal Junkie. Poor Dane.
Sorry,
We got to have somebody in the room.
his
we can play
mindset's
everything.
strong. His
Yeah.
ego's strong right
Hey,
now. He
don't-
can handle it.
Don't be so hard
He's
on
good.
yourself.
Totally good.
All
Okay,
right.
so we're talking about Mike's deals. We're back to Mike's deals.
So we were asking you about marketing. You got 2 seller carry deals you found from
Yeah, right.
marketing.
And they all kind of came at the same time. So this
Okay.
is from our direct mail. And it's funny because one seller I had talked about, I negotiated a deal with them 10 years ago, and then they took those terms and sold it to the neighbor. So he was already in my cell phone, which was kind of fun. And I got so my acquisitions manager sends me a calendar invite. Like lead comes in, he sets an appointment, and then there's a calendar invite, and then I decide whether I want to go or not. I saw the address, and I was like, that motherfucker, is that guy? And it was that seller. And I did look at my phone. I do have his phone number. So anyway, I went to that one. We had another seller come in. So what's kind of good to talk about these two deals is the contrast between the sellers, because they're two completely different people. As far as what they are, they're both in similar parts of town in Portland. They're both duplexes. One's like a 1910 historic property. One's like a 1970s built as a rental. Their county RMV is almost the same.
What's RMV?
Real market value. So how the county appraiser would say what it's worth. Both owned free and clear, both owned for a long period of time, both owned by wealthy people that just don't want to manage it anymore. Kind of, it's more of a life, where we're at in life is dictating the sell. One was vacating and one had been vacant for 15 years. So this is where the
duplex was vacant for 15 years.
This is where the difference
both sides?
Yes, this is where the difference in mentality happens. Okay, so one that was coming vacant, dad had bought it out of the savings and loan scandal back in the 80s, owned it forever. Then he got it from his dad, and they just operated it. It's just a really good building. They operated it for a long time. It's just a great piece. It just needs carpet, flooring, paint, and fixtures, and then it's good to go, and you can go get market rents.
Vacant.
No, this one is just now vacating. Right. So this is so let's go.
Yeah.
So there's 62nd, and then there's Buckman. Okay. So 62nd is he's just an operator. He's all just financial. It's all economical.
Yeah.
He's operated it really well. It's a turnkey type duplex. And then you have Buckman, which is he's touchy feely. He's an investor. The reason it's vacant is because one side was his cigar den for 15 years.
Wait, Buckman is the one that is completely vacant for 15 years?
For 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So he used one side as his cigar den. He'd go there. So he had other properties in the neighborhood, but lived in a different city. So his routine was driving to this neighborhood that he drove to for decades to go do his real estate stuff.
No way.
And so he's tinkering on one side, doing a really cool custom historic remodel for 15 years. And then the other side smells like a smoke-infested tenant.
Well, he could have done a modern remodel, and by the time he was done, it's
Yeah.
historic.
It'd be
Golly.
exactly. So completely different reasons on why you're selling, right? So go back to 62nd, the economical guy. It's the time. We have one vacancy coming up. The other one vacancy is now coming. We just don't want to manage it anywhere. And so he comes to this negotiation purely tactical. I want to do an installment sale. I know exactly what my taxes are. So when we met him the first time at the property on a piece of paper, these are the county taxes, the city taxes, the state tax. He knew everything, right? And so in that scenario, it's like, oh, well, you just told me what your down payment needs to be. Thank you. So that one's, and then we negotiate. So they're a couple weeks apart. We negotiate with him. We send him 2 offers. One with a price that's a little less than the county RMV. After we put a little bit of money into it, we could sell it, pay all our costs, get all our money, make a little bit of profit. So we're paying essentially market value.
So you're trying to flip these?
Nope. These are just 10-year financing holds. That was the goal. So in him, I gave him a lower price with a higher interest rate. I give him a higher price with a lower interest rate, just kind of trying to shoot on like a 8 to 10% cash on cash return for what we needed to do to buy it. So if I can buy it, operate it, and get a 10% cash on cash return, that's kind of unheard of in Portland. So then that works. So that was just the deal that we worked out. He chose the lower price with the higher interest rate. Why, I don't know, because it actually makes sense to go the other way to get capital gains instead of interest income.
He chose a higher rate.
Yeah.
No. He chose lower rate, higher price.
No, he chose lower price with the
lower
higher
price, high rate. Okay.
Yeah.
Why would it make sense to?
I think one was a higher down payment.
Was the monthly payment different on them, or were they equivalent?
No, that's no. It was a little bit less. So I can't. Don't worry about the specifics. But essentially, I gave him 2 offers.
Call Mike's team. They'll tell you.
Yeah, exactly. He chose one, and then we started moving forward on that one, and so that one's going to close this week.
How much down payment?
$40K. So I think the purchase was like $585, $40K down. The county RMV was like $610.
So you're like 5, 6, 7% down or something.
Yeah.
What is it worth after you're done doing your cosmetic?
$650 to $7-ish. So it's just nice owner occupied style duplexes. One's had a bathroom addition. They've got view of downtown Portland. So nice, just a really nice classic building. The ultimate buyer will be an owner occupant, and that's how we'll get max value.
What kind of rate were these roughly?
5% interest rate.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the lower one was 4 and the current one was 5. Yeah. And then interest only payments, because I don't care about paying down principal.
Yeah. When's the balloon?
10 years. Yeah.
That's cool.
So you talk a lot about land banking and return of capital. How does this fit into your
So so it's good for a 1031 because there's just a place to because it's high leverage. And the way I look at it is, so now 1031s usually have a lot of capital, and if you can get high leverage somewhere with a little down, that gives you flexibility in the rest of your 1031.
You're trying to 1031 in, or you're talking about 1031ing out?
In. So it's a really good 1030. It's a good place to just park a little bit of equity.
Are you doing a 1031?
No, I'm going to 1030
going?
a tick. So it'll be a 1031 tick partnership.
So are you going to reverse in, or are you going to go sell something and roll in?
No, I'm not going to tick 1031 in. My partner will 1031 in. So that's we're doing a tick structure.
Is he already in a 1031? He's already closed his down leg? Okay, so he's got some money ready to go.
Correct.
So he'll identify this as one of his properties.
Yep.
He'll nominate it as one of his exchange opportunities.
Yep.
Okay.
And when we accepted the agreement, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. It's just kind of how, again, because you're trying to always talk to capital, you're always having deals, and then you're trying to see, well, ultimately timing is going to dictate what capital matches what deal.
Did he is he bringing all the money, and so you don't have to, you get part of the deal and you don't have to bring money?
This one we're structuring it as we're building in a commission, and I'll bring that in as the
a commission for finding the deal.
Yeah. Just to keep it very clean from a 10.
So your So when you talk about your capital account going in, you'll tick in. You won't have a capital account because you're not going into the same LLC. So each tick will bring in an equal amount, or whatever your percentage of ownership is going to be.
Yep.
And then how do you guys manage the property after you own it? Do you have a different role of who runs the project?
Nope. So my property management company manages it. So we're asset managers together. We make the asset management decisions by leading the answering questions for the property management company.
Okay.
But that's essentially why they want to partner with me, is because I have the property management company team in place. And then we get now you have an educated property manager that is tied to the bottom line.
Sure.
Why property owners wouldn't want that?
Well, you found the deal. You can manage the deal.
Yep.
somebody can land their exchange in there. It's a perfect opportunity
Yep.
for them, really, to just be sort of a silent partner. So then, in going forward, have you guys picked a head wizard? Like when you decide, if you decide 2 years down the road, hey, we don't want to hold this 10 years, let's dump it now. At least you're in a TIC. So TIC is a tenant in common.
Mm-hmm.
You guys come into title rather than forming a new LLC and taking title as one. You're coming in as two. So you have an undivided interest. You own 50%, let's say 50-50, but you own an undivided interest in that property,
Correct.
50%. So you don't own one unit and he owns one unit. You each own half of the whole building and the land and everything else that goes with it, right?
Yep.
So then if you decided 2 years down the road that you wanted to sell it, exchange, you could go your own ways or you could go together. It doesn't matter. But now you can take your entity and you can roll that basis into your next asset.
Correct.
So who decides, if you decide you're going in, you've decided, okay, I've got a partner, he's bringing the money, I found the deal, we're equal, everything's cool, but we've come up with a 10-year window. That's our holding pattern. So we've picked our holding pattern of 10 years. If in 2 years you find a shiny object and you say, I want to own this other thing and I need the equity out of that, can you trigger either to sell to him or to just be I guess I'm asking, who's the head wizard? Who decides if you dispose of it early?
And that's the to sell the entire asset, now you have to be in alignment to then sell the entire asset at the same time. The nice thing about a TIC is you can just sell your interest whether they care or not because you own that.
If your TIC agreement says you can.
Sure.
So you could sell your interest to an unrelated party and he could end up being partners with somebody else?
Well, we just have the deed is, I don't know. You're asking me questions about
Are we getting too technical here?
No, I mean, could he buy you out? Is
Yes,
what you're getting at?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Your question is what happens when they disagree and want to go separate ways. Who makes the call?
It's not necessarily even disagreeing. It's just like two people have different paths in life and different needs for cash and different deals they find. And since they're not coming in together to decide, I mean, that's an important thing when you're setting up a partnership is to know what you're going to do next, right?
So if you want to sell and he doesn't, who has the call is what Gabe is asking.
Yeah, no, these are long-term hold investments. That is the goal. So they're a retirement funds for them, and then me, I am a long-term buy and hold buyer.
retirement funds for
Yeah,
you too.
and this is the second of 3 that we're doing together. So the first one required a lot more capital. That one, though, has the path to refinance quickly to get all of the capital back. And at that point, and then going on to this new one where it's only 40 grand down, there's not a lot of resources, right? So when it comes down to buying someone out, getting people whole isn't that big of an issue to figure out. We're talking tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Then the other component of this, which is the Buckman property, which is a third property, which has a completely different strategy to it, which is more of an equity play. It's a long-term equity play, where now these all roll into a scenario where that one equity play creates a crap ton of realized gains that they can be used in the partnership. The partnership can, that specific new one then can go its own way, or we can then funnel those into what we're already doing.
So you're buying that one with the same partner?
Yeah, and the other one's different because the mindset of that seller is different, and that's why I wanted to contrast this. So the first one, we had it negotiated in like 3 days. And the reason being is because he's just a tactician. I have a vacancy coming up. I want this done. I want to go to Hawaii. I trust you guys. You have a good reputation. Let's just get it done. The other guy's like, maybe I can meet your aunt. You want to come see the property again? Right? Because he doesn't want to sell. He's selling because it's time, but he doesn't. It's his identity, right? And
He's emotionally attached.
He's emotionally attached, and this is the last property in that neighborhood, and I've known him for 10 years, right? And so there's this little bit of a bond where he knows I'm a junkie. We've gone down this road before where we negotiated for months, and then we didn't transact. He sold another building in the neighborhood, and this is just like his last piece. But at the same time, he needs to travel more. His wife wants him at home.
Ooh, this is a new contrast, time versus money.
Exactly.
Suddenly you get old and you have all this money,
Yep.
but what you really want is more time.
Yep.
And so now I'm going to sell to Mike and I'm going to get some money, but the money doesn't really mean as much to me because I'm giving up part of my identity of what led me here, and now I'm going to go, sit on the Rio Grande or whatever you do when you retire. And he's like, but now he's out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And he had different goals as well because So, I essentially made almost the exact same offer. It was like, I think county RMV.
From 10 years ago?
No. Because that was a different property that
Oh.
did sold as the other duplex. So the offers I made him, one was at 600, one was at 650. The county RMV was like 50 grand higher in the building. The income was just a little bit higher on the building, but they have completely different strategies because one is the 62nd. It's close to the hospital. It's 70s construction. It's not as walkable. Buckman is right in the heart of the walkable neighborhood. It's historic. It was built as a duplex. It's super sexy. It has basements. One is dying to be a condo and dying to be developed into creating forced appreciation and value, which then fits with his personality. The other one is just, it is what it is. You just hold it. You just operate it. Maybe we'll midterm rental it. That's what we're going to do, is furnish it and midterm rental it because it's close to the hospital. And then it's just 10 years later, you make a decision. With the other guy, though, that is his identity's there. It's actually, I see it as a partnership with him. So I offered him essentially two things: 10-year seller finance carries, and then he comes back and he's like, "Well, no, that's not what I want. I want 50 grand a month of principal pay, or 50 grand a year of principal pay down, and I want my money back in 5 years." And that's what we had structured on his other one. And the reason, and on this new duplex, so the one he sold 10 years ago, he sold to the neighbor who was across the street from me. So if I was that neighbor, I would have got it because I was across the street. I didn't. So he wanted that same deal. He wanted 50 grand a year principal pay down. He took it to them first, and they said no because they went through that process before. Mm-hmm. Because they're not like us. They're not deal junkies. They don't have other assets. They're not moving and shaking. They have to write a check.
Yep.
We write that check through movement of value creation. So it works great on this one because, A, he took the cheaper price. So he wants a shorter term. I offered him 5 or 10. He's like, I really want 5. Yeah. And what I ultimately did said, well, here's how we're going to make this happen. We're going to make it 3 years, and we're going to do it through a condo conversion play. Because, A, that creates more equity for me. B, you're going to take the lower price to do that, so it creates more profit for me. Mm-hmm. And we're just going to structure it in a way that works for 1031s. So it's buy it, convert it to a condo. Mm-hmm. So now your inventory, now you hold it for a year, you season it. Now I can sell one unit off, and guess what? Now I can pay him his lump sum that he needs. Mm-hmm. And I hold the other unit. And that first one I seasoned it, and I can 1031 out of that.
I love it.
And now I have the second unit, and I can 1031 out of that. So what's beautiful about it is because he wanted 5 years and he wanted 50 grand a year in principal pay down. What I structured it was, I think we're 570 on a note, so I did 285. I did half each year. No, it's 540. So I did 270 in each one of those sales. There's a lot of fudge factor there. Like, because he's a junkie. He wants to be part of it. So by the time we actually go for an actual payoff, a principal reduction, that's going to change. I am pretty confident that the terms of that will change based on where our relationship is at the time. And so, I sent him the offer. He's like, well, I want some tweaks. I emailed him some tweaks. I'll think about the afternoon or over the weekend. He kind of comes back, hey, this is good. I'm not ready to sign, but this is good. Do you want to look at the property again? He just wanted to meet. So then I go through the property and we talk to him again. We geek out and he's like, okay, well, give me a week. And then he reaches out. He's like, okay, I'm ready to meet your office. Let's meet your office. He just wants to see my office. That's all it is. And he goes,
just wants a friend.
Yeah, he wants a friend. He comes to the office. He's impressed. Our office is sick, by the way.
I've seen pictures.
Yeah, and he comes in there. He's just, his mouth's dry. He's like, "Oh wow, what are we getting into?"
Why is it sick? You have like a ping pong table or something?
We put 300 grand into.
It's awesome.
It is
really
sick,
yeah. It makes us look like, we're nothing. SMI's nothing.
Oh my God, did I just impress Gabe?
I wasn't sure if that was your office when I saw you filming a video on Facebook. I was like, damn,
we rented an office.
That is a nice office.
We have a nice office. And so then the conversation. So he comes to the office. We sign the purchase agreement. We get started, and then the conversation is, well, I'm about to put a flip on the market for $1.1 million, like a half mile from your house. So now we're gonna go meet him at that property. Oh, and I've got another flip a mile from your house. Let's go check out that. So now he gets to see what we're doing on those things. He's also going to witness me convert this building to a condo, change it from 600 grand in value to 950 grand in value, if not $1 million.
What's the cost to convert it to a condo?
25 grand.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty simple. Pretty easy. Yeah. And so now you can sell them as a 1 unit instead of 2.
Can you convert anything to a condo, even an apartment complex?
Anything with addresses.
And is it by unit it costs you that 25 grand or for the whole property? So if you go buy an 18-unit apartment complex in Portland,
It'll cost more. So essentially, you have to pay for a surveyor. You have to pay for an inspector to do condition reports, an engineer then to do reserve studies, and then an attorney to draw up all the paperwork. So the bigger the more inspections you're doing, the bigger your scale, your cost will go up with scale. But for a 2-unit, 20, 25 grand.
So your duplexes have separate addresses already, separate mailboxes and that sort of thing. Whereas an apartment complex may have one common address.
Well, you could do like
you
number
have
1, number
multiple.
2,
Yeah.
number 3.
You could do a dash.
What in towards Gresham, let's say, off of, I forgot the street names, but in the Gresham area, what would 800 square foot condo unit go for? 2x1.
I don't even know if those will sell in Gresham.
Really? No one would want that?
Well, I'm sure they are, but they're going to be entry level, maybe 300 grand. I don't know. I don't know the market at all. But condos vary significantly in how they're valued, and yeah. So I don't have enough context to give you an answer.
It's in Gresham.
Yeah. Right. What I'd say is
I was thinking Skylar.
Well, all you got to do is look up what
you
the
don't-
entry level home is in that area and shave 10 or 20% off, and somebody will buy a condo.
It's hard to value these things. It's really hard to figure out how do you value these things, and I think that's why people don't do them. We did one 2 years ago, like right when the market turned, and it turned out really well. And it was, you have to know what is the right type of property to do it to. So the duplex, because duplexes suck because now you have 50-50 HOA ownership. That's the hardest thing as well. No one has a decision power truly because it's 50-50. But
that's what I was just saying about your partnership.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and we're not doing 50-50. So at the end of the day, I'm not too worried about that. And our alignments are in goal, and we want to buy, our goals are in alignment. And we want to buy other real estate. And the other thing is like, okay, you want to buy me out? Great, buy me out. Like, I don't fucking care. It's a tick. I'll 1031 out.
So condo duplexes are hard. It'd be better if it was
correct.
3 or more.
Correct, because and then when you're doing condo conversions, it's how does the lending work? And there's a lot of factors you need to consider. But I've done it. We do them on our new construction. I've done it on a duplex existing building because it was the right property and it was successful. And this one is the exact same thing. It is the right property.
So for somebody to buy a condo, if they're looking to get in an entry level home, they can't afford a single family. Aren't there some rules around that? Like the building has to be certified, or it has to have some.
So that's where, like FHA level or FHA approved. So I don't worry about that in any of these scenarios for the right building.
Okay.
Less than 4 units, so that's not going to be a concern. And then my buyer's not going to be an FHA buyer, so I'm not concerned about that.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So do it in the right location with the right target market in mind. And these are nice. They'll be really nice condo, but to pay $475 or $500 grand for a 100-year-old condo, they have to be nice.
Nice.
Yeah. And then who's your buyer? Someone who's putting $100 grand down. They want to be in that neighborhood.
So you didn't talk about structure as much on the second one. You got a
So what we did,
you got the price you wanted.
Yeah, I think this is what we did. We did $600, $50,000 down, $10,000 principal reduction in year 2. So he gets a little bit, but we're not committed to a ton. And the way I'm going to fund it is we need to buy it, and then we have like $125,000 budget for the condo and the repairs, and then the $10,000 principal reduction. So it'll be funded up front. The goal is to get the condo conversion done this year. It won't happen this year.
Meaning you're going to put your money in, real money out of pocket,
Yeah.
125.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
There's no such thing as real money.
Money we printed somewhere else. And then the first year after it's seasoned, then we will sell the 1 unit, make a very large principal reduction payment, and then in the following year sell the next unit. So that way he gets his principal payments in different calendar years.
Which is very much in your wheelhouse because you've done this before, where you divide off a lot and sell it. And
Yeah.
Whenever you can take a property and split it up somehow to where you own a piece of it free and clear.
Yeah.
And then Trevor and I did this on the fourplex we ended up selling to Dane, and then we own a lot, and then it's like, you can sell this lot, and that's sort of your profit, or you can use that as equity to go build something or whatever. So doing the same thing, instead of dividing off a lot, actually dividing the units.
Yep.
And then planning to sell one of those units, and you'll pay the guy off, and you'll still own the other one, or you'll
And the nice thing is it's funny the way he did it. Like the 1 unit that he put a lot of energy into, it's all up above ground, all remodeled, and then a cheap little basement. And then the unit he was living in, it's all kind of beat up on the upper level, and then he totally redid the basement. jacked it up, like dug down. There's another bedroom down there. So it's like, well, we'll hold the nicer unit because it'll rent for more.
Yeah.
So we'll get more cash flow because the debt position's the exact same.
Lipstick the other one, sell it.
Yeah. And we don't need to do as much to the other one.
It'll take you.
Yeah.
It'll take you 2-3 years to do that, or you're
No, that's just the phasing of, because he wants the principal reduction payments in different calendar years.
I see.
And so that's how we're structuring the time frame to minimize his tax.
Is there any penalty on you if you pay him off early?
No prepayment penalty.
Because you may decide the market's great.
You know,
in
so
6 months to
again,
dump it.
and here's how seller finance deals work: is you come to the agreement on the purchase agreement, but you have loan docs that need to get approved. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back with some type of prepayment penalty. And I've had sellers do that. Like I had a seller where we made him like a $330,000 seller finance offer. They had $400 cash on the table and they took ours. But what did they do? Prepayment penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted large principal reductions in different calendar years and a prepayment. So we put ourselves a lot of risk on ourselves to sign up for that. But again, with that one, it was a house and a garage. Turn the garage into an ADU, condo convert, 2 different pieces of collateral. Now that's very easy to manipulate those principal reductions. But if you have one piece of property, you have to write a check.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing an event. You're not refinancing. You're not selling. You're writing a check. So I want the market to create the equity that I need to make those payments. And that's why separating the...
And
You
how-
converted a garage into a condo?
Fuck yeah. It's sick, dude. It is sick.
Sold a garage for 300
This
grand.
garage... Dude, 14-foot ceilings in a garage?
Wow.
It's not your
That's bougie.
average
No.
1 or 2 car garage.
No, at all.
This was almost like a shop type
Yeah.
of
Oh, and the
space.
roof was falling down. It was so beat up. But yeah, we actually had to get a special, because it was so big, we had to get a variance from the city to allow us to do it.
How many square feet was it when it was done?
954, but 800's the max.
What'd you sell it for?
We haven't.
Oh,
Yeah.
but it's a condo. It's its own condo.
I haven't condoed it yet. I can
Okay.
to then fulfill what's necessary.
So it's an ADU today.
Correct.
that
I don't
could-
want to. Yeah. So like, you don't condo convert to hold because your property taxes go up and it kills your cash flow. You condo convert to exit.
Will there be any issues condo converting on a garage?
Nope, because it's a permitted unit, 2 permitted units, 2 different addresses. So the city level, I can't do it, but the condo's at the state.
Well, I guess it makes no difference. Like just like you build the ADU in the backyard, condo it, sell that off separate. What's the difference? You turn a garage into a condo
Mhm.
or into an ADU, condo it,
Yep.
sell it.
Yeah. So I love making multiple pieces of leverage.
How many people do this condo thing like you? Are there many?
Not a whole. The infill development, yes. On the new builders, there's probably like 5 to 8 builders that are doing it.
But not many people are going and converting. and-
Existing building, no, because condo conversions got killed thanks to the Great Recession because lending changed. And I don't know why people don't do it. I think it's a fantastic way to create value.
It's probably just higher barrier to entry to go learn, right? And
Well, and the other scenario is like the first one we did it on. One unit was vacant, one unit was occupied. We sold the unit to the tenant for 50 grand less than what we sold the other unit for. Like it's creating affordable housing. She could never have bought the duplex, but she bought the unit she lived in. So there's that component to it as well.
Are we going to talk politics or are we going to wrap it up and come back in another episode?
I think we got to wrap it up.
Yeah, it's a long one.
Mike had so many deals. We just had to talk about deals.
Your whole summary of your note on politics was it doesn't matter.
Well,
So-
that's where we were going to get to.
Dude,
Well, and so
now we
Yeah,
don't
give it-
have another episode.
Now you're bearing the lead. Avery, you got to back. Don't play this one until you play the next one.
there is one other thing I'd like to say on that structured duplex is now tenant laws matter. And tenancy and leases and leasehold interest. And so in that scenario, we don't want to put a long-term tenant in there, but we do need an income stream because we're not going to sell it right away. So we'll do midterm rentals so we don't have year-long, we don't have residency established that we cannot then take the property to the market vacant. So that's the other strategy. And there's one long-term tenant, one midterm tenant.
Seems like a lot of work and a lot of
Well,
strategy.
yeah, so if we're into that thing, 750 total. And then it's debt servicing and paying for itself, and it's worth $1 million. It's just creating a future fruit to pluck.
Yeah, you're saying he should go do this on a 12-plex, right? Rather than a
Like 112
12-plex. Yeah.
Gabe just thinks that you should
So,
sell big
and that
apartments.
condo doesn't work in that scenario because it's way too many units. You flood the market. Now Fannie and Freddie.
So 1 to
yeah.
4. The condo thing's a 1 to 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ideally detached.
I have a 30 unit for you. You want to give it a go? You only need 400 grand down.
for 40 units,
30 units,
30 units.
and you can take over 3% debt.
Let's look at it, baby. Let's go. I need to fund the
Found the
care
partner.
facility.
We found the right guy.
No, you and I. Well, we're sitting down. You're going to do a lot more underwriting for me on Sunday than you realize. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
And if there's money left over, we can go buy that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Trevor's got a new offer.
He's got a new offer.
Yeah, through Vesta Solutions.
No, this
You're
is
gonna
free
have
for
to
me. This
sign-
is for free for
Being a
me.
testimonial.
Okay.
Vesta can take
good.
their offer and shove it.
All right.
All right, we're gonna rein it in, guys. We'll come back with more episodes. We sure appreciate you listening to us. We're having a lot of fun. Please like, share, do all the things. Give us feedback.
Tell your
Yeah.
friends about it.
Tell everybody to listen to Deal Junkies. We love you. We'll see you next time.